Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WREVA Electrifying News segment for November 2023. Welcome one, welcome all. We've got our guest hosts with us as well. We have Mr. Eric Steven joining us from the Listowel area. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing outstanding, Mark. Great day. Awesome.
Great day yesterday. Today, not so much.
Well, weather-wise, yeah. Weather-wise, okay. Yes. November showed back up again.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Also joining us as regular, we have Mr. Ian Graham from downtown Kitchener. How are you today, sir?
Good. I liked yesterday and Wednesday much better than today, but you know what? I was in the basement of the college teaching today, so it's okay. I didn't see what was happening outside. Yeah, so it was all good.
Yeah, I saw the news report yesterday of people on the golf course taking the last round in. So man, that was a nice day. Don't get many of those in mid-November, so we consider ourselves lucky.
I even saw a few bikers out there on their motorcycle. So
excellent.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. So let's Ian, you take over and let's roll the deck.
All right. So the November edition of WREVA Electrifying News, and we start off with Ontario.
Yes, indeed. Ontario introduced a $91 million plan for EV and plug-ins, and what's a little bit unique to this particular plan that they've outlined is that it's more directed towards population centers that are medium and small sized. So we've seen, of course, a lot of growth in charging infrastructure in the large big cities. And this one is more aimed at let's get some of this out to the smaller and medium sized centers so that we can, have a spattering of EV infrastructure across the province so that people, when they're on those trips to other people's homes or off exploring a new section of Ontario, that there are more pieces of infrastructure to allow them to charge up while they're doing the activity and then be able to go back home or, of course, continue their journey to a further point. So this is, there's so many programs that Ontario and the federal government have put into place. I see chargers opening up all the time. If you follow PlugShare, it is a great resource to alert you around your area. The app actually brings up information about when a new charger's been added locally to around you, and you can see that. In fact, I got a notification earlier today about a new level 2 that had appeared in the Waterloo area close to me. So that's something that you can do with PlugShare. If you subscribe to their application or even their webpage, you can view some of that stuff. But again, more charging infrastructure, the better. Let's keep it going. Not sure. Again, what's tied to this ChargeON program? I'm hoping that in the future, when we put provincial or federal dollars towards something, that we start to look at maintenance and upkeep as part of the equation as well. Not sure if that's going to be the plan in this particular one, but that is something certainly when tax dollars are spent, that there should be some strings attached about maintenance and uptime reliability as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. This is a great program targeting communities under 170,000 people. This will be good, especially for my neck of the woods kind of area as well too. And a lot of these smaller communities today, some of them do have charging stations, but oftentimes they only have 1 or 2 stations in a lot of these smaller communities. So just helping build that robustness of a network where you have a few options just in case there is a maintenance issue with the charging station or something like that. It just gives people that much more confidence to be able to go wherever they want in an EV. So I think this is a great addition to many of the other incentives that are out there today.
Mm-hmm. And the smaller aspect of things and the other, so to speak, neck of the woods, especially too if we're looking places like Northern Ontario, where we constantly hear that there's kind of issues that respect. I talked to someone recently who said that if they get Timmins is one thing, but past that it gets to be a little more difficult. I think though, Mark's got a good point, and this is something that you can't just put the charging station in. There's got to be some aspect of reliability, maintenance, etc., that needs to be done with these stations in order to give confidence to the general public, and also to assure them that they're not going to show up and find something's wrong. Even at Fairview Park Mall, we got different chargers there, and I can count at least 4 of them that are not working as of right now, and it's frustrating, to see that. It was great when we saw they were put in. That's a few years back, but now that oh geez, there's not even any power to some of these things. That's really where I think the government needs to make sure that we have that aspect of things, that confidence builder.
Yeah, I think as we had the rush of getting shovels in the ground and getting the infrastructure started to go, maintenance was an afterthought to a lot of us. In fact, a lot of people that were installing them had no idea what maintenance would be required because there was no track record for this type of infrastructure out there. So now that we've started to learn this and we can understand what type of maintenance is required, I think that we should roll that kind of into the contracts that we're putting out there.
Exactly. So, all right. This is I found it's sudden that this happened, but I think it's a great movement forward from the City of Toronto.
Yeah, I think with with Olivia Chow now in charge in Toronto now, I think we're starting to see a few more measures like this and stuff. But yeah, the Toronto City Council is now they voted to move to require all taxi and rideshare services to be zero emission by 2031. So they're going to be transitioning all of these types of vehicles, and I think we're going to start seeing more. In a city like Toronto, you're going to see a lot more taxi and rideshare type services. People getting around using those types of services are becoming much more common now as well too. So I think this push to just it makes sense from a lot of levels, and now requiring it, I think, is a good thing.
Yeah, there's definitely changes coming. Like you can see it, and of course with the ride shares or vehicles for hire type scenarios, that's a great win for even the operators. Many may not realize it, but over time, of course, the less maintenance to your vehicle, the lower cost of fueling your vehicle with electricity over gasoline is going to be a benefit to these ride for hire services. They're going to be able to put more money in their pocket as opposed to giving it to the fuel company. So again, you're going to have a reliable vehicle. You're going to have a long, you'd want a larger battery in a ride share type situation. And you're going to want that quick charge ability to be able to top up during the day if it's required for you to finish your shift. So all those things combine, but once you've got them in place, I think the vehicle for hire groups will really enjoy electrification. It's just a matter of getting them into it and starting to use it and understand it.
Yeah, even in the Waterloo region, I've been seeing more taxi drivers who drive white Model 3s. At the time, that was the paint color that was included was white, so that makes sense. And it actually looks good with the taxis. But I've actually had a chance to talk to a few of them, and everyone's basically said they charge overnight. They got enough to kind of do their job for the day, and they're really enjoying it. And their customers are also quite liking it as well. The one, a couple other aspects that the city, I'm sure they're looking at as well, is the fact that, the pollution aspect is Olivia Chow's kind of out and said, the pollution needs to come down in Toronto. But there's also the noise pollution aspect of things. It's one less thing that we're hearing in that respect with, the amount of traffic, especially in a place like Toronto. What I found interesting too was, of course, there were some opponents to the motion. I think the opponents weren't necessarily against going towards decarbonized vehicles. They're more or less concerned about the cap for licensing that was put on. But those type of things I think over time could change as well once they've got some actual numbers to figure some of this out. Because between say now and 2029, how much is the population going to change for the city of Toronto as well? Even say for 2031, that's a few years away. So to put a licensing cap on might seem like, not a good thing to do, but we'll have to wait and see how that works out with the population.
Yeah. Caps can change over time. You can always, this is a starting point, and you can always adjust as they need to. So. Yeah.
So, anyways, we're gonna pray for them because the Vatican is got their own thing of EVs. Do you like that transition? But this came out, I think it was yesterday, and I'm like, oh, there is a story. And anyways, I thought right away, the first kind of religious joke I thought that was going to be good was the fact that like a lot of electric vehicles at lower speeds, like especially the Model 3, the Model Y, it sounds like something religious actually as you're slowly moving along. So with the Pope Mobile, it's got the perfect sound for as he, floats along with his electric vehicle. Yeah. But the Vatican, of course, has been talking about climate change and, that we need to deal with this and take it seriously. And to be really honest, I kind of look at like they're partnering with Volkswagen on this. And I think it's great to see that they're taking it serious and, putting the people's money where their mouth is for the Vatican. So it's going to be, and you know what, that's going to actually, I think, inspire some people to consider electric vehicles as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think leading by example is what the Vatican should be doing at all times. They should be leading by example, and here they're trying to show themselves as environmental, and they've talked about environmental issues, and this is one way to fix their footprint of carbonization. They're able to replace their fleet to EVs by 2030, and it's every little bit counts. We know that we all can't change the world individually, but if all the individuals do it at the same time or over a short period of time, it really makes a difference. And this is just another. The Vatican doing this is kind of like a municipality doing it, a small municipality doing it, or a city that says that we're going to switch our vehicles. The ones purchased from this point forward are going to be non-emission vehicles. So this is more of that, and my hat's off to them, and I hope it will spur others to make the transition as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, "Dear Father, for I have sinned." It is. I've burned a liter of gasoline. But this is good. Setting an example here. Even if you're not a fan of the Catholic Church, I would say this Pope has been fairly progressive in advocating for climate change and even advocating for even the scientific community and stuff like that too, and pushing for some progressive change. So it's good to see this kind of leadership and setting an example. So
yeah, I think if Volkswagen, if you're listening, you should definitely do a commercial with the Pope flooring the performance and having his little white thing come flying off and him going, holy shit, and Jesus.
Somehow, Ian, I think Volkswagen might lose the contract if they do something.
Yeah. Oh, gotta have some humor. Humor sells. I always believe that. Yeah. Oh man. It always reminds me now, I'm thinking about the humor too of Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think it was the Mercedes commercial years ago.
The AA batteries.
Just all flowing out. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along, this is again, Ontario. Wow, we're just becoming a powerhouse when it comes to electric vehicle manufacturing, battery manufacturing, processing, the mining aspect of the batteries, etc. And now we got the GigaCasting, which is kind of like the new the new big term that, you know, a lot of these companies are using now because of GigaCasting being such a efficient way to make a vehicle.
Exactly, and this kind of hits close to home as well with Linamar. Of course, has operations already in Guelph for other automotive operations. But what's kind of interesting here is that the plant they're going to open here is going to be pushed down to Welland, Ontario, near Niagara Falls. And this will give Linamar, I believe, will be one of the first third-party suppliers to start to push out these gigacastings for vehicles, able to produce EVs that are lighter weight and supposed to be tougher, stronger material, as opposed to many parts put together with fasteners, and then some weak points can develop. But with a single piece, single cast, with the proper material that the cast is made of, this allows the vehicles to be lighter. And of course, that's the whole game of EVs, is getting a lighter vehicle gives you more range, gives you cheaper costs, and requires less batteries. So that's all pluses for EVs. So this is interesting. I'm interested to see how successful they are with getting more current EV manufacturers to come on board with these gigacastings. And of course, with this plant being built in Ontario, it's going to be a plus to Ontario workers. And again, this EV infrastructure that we've seen blossoming over the past 3 years just continues to roll for Ontario and Canada. And that's fantastic news.
Yeah. I mean, Ontario has always been one of the global leaders in automotive manufacturing. And, you know, this makes sense to have this here too. You know, automotive manufacturing is something that's always continuously evolving and, you know, finding ways to reduce the number of fasteners and welds that are in a vehicle always helps with the improvement of the product, but also efficiencies in manufacturing and stuff as well too. Though personally, I got to say, I hate the term gigacasting. It's a little marketing gimmicky for me, but you know, maybe I should come out and create my own terracasting or petacasting next. You know? But yeah, it's good for Ontario. It's good for the industry.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the gigacasting, I never really looked at that as a name that I don't know, it never bothered me, but yeah, it makes you wonder if you can get something kind of a little more interesting on that.
Well, it seems things are starting to go giga everything. It's like, okay, why did they pick giga? You know, they can go terra. What prefix we're going to use next? So.
Yeah, exactly.
And just for people to know as well, the articles that we're doing, we do link them in the notes below. So if you'd like to go into some more detail and read the articles at your leisure, you can go ahead and click on those and bring them up. And since I'm speaking about that at this point, when we talk about clicking on things, if you haven't already, please click on that like button, that thumbs up button, and help us out. If you haven't already, please press the subscribe button, and you will be notified every time that we add a new video to the WREVA YouTube feed.
You can look at it and go, those three blokes are at it again. All right. Well, moving along in our news stories, we have a lovely pink locomotive.
Yes. So this was an interesting story I came across. This is in Australia though, but it's an electric locomotive, and they've partnered with this is their second generation FLXdrive locomotive. So they had a previous electric locomotive, smaller battery pack, but this new one has a much bigger. So the first one had 2.4 megawatt hour battery capacity. And then this new one here is closer to 7 megawatt hour, so much bigger battery, much more capable. And they've partnered with a company in Australia called Roy Hill, and basically Roy Hill does iron ore processing. And what's interesting is these trains will drive sort of away from the coast uphill to the iron ore facility, they take on iron ore, and then as they're coming back downhill, they're regenerating energy back again. So they almost never have to charge these trains. Basically, they're using the weight of the iron ore as kinetic energy down the hill to charge these. Kind of like we saw a previous story a while back where there was a mining company doing that with trucks. Well, now this is a similar concept, but with trains now. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that was it was either Sweden or Switzerland, the company that was doing that. And it was a dump truck that, of course, would be empty going up the hill using its battery power at that point. But once it got filled up and then it would go downhill, they never needed to charge it. It actually had regenerated enough to, go do its thing. It's like that makes you go, it's like, okay, is that now considered a perpetual motion machine?
No,
because it's not really perpetual motion, but at the same time, it's the fact that you're not really having to charge this still makes it quite interesting. Although you could, I don't know, maybe you got to argue that the weight that's in the truck now is creating the charge. If you went back downhill, you would get some charge, but the weight's not the same on that.
The added mass gives the extra potential energy as you go down the hill. So basically, you're
I would say that any resource-based industry that is pulling resources out of a mountain or a hill, they should be all over this. Like this has been proven in the very large mining dump trucks previously, as Ian was talking about. Now it's being proven here in Australia with trains. I can see this working with a logging company. If they're up on the mountain pulling down logs, they go up empty, they fill up those trailers, and then they come downhill, and that kinetic energy could work for them as fuel savings.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing too is with the breast cancer aspect with the pink, a friend of mine actually, I didn't even know, but she just defeated stage 1 breast cancer. She had posted yesterday. And so it was nice when I was doing up these slides and I came across that. I was like, okay, that's cool. A little, put together that way. But and of course, the big thing with these trains as well is the fuel costs is reduction is huge, and then the emissions is another big one, because diesel, of course, in many cases is one of the main issues that our environment and healthcare that we deal with. And so for these trains, this is great. They're making use of a physics in a way that's very beneficial. So makes a lot of sense. All right. So this is interesting. When you first read the title, the first thing you see is BMW halts its ICE production. And you're like, oh, awesome. And then you find out, well, in Germany. So they are still doing ICE production with their cars in the UK and Austria. But you know what? This is, to me, is kind of like the writing on the wall. It's a slow scale out of an ICE vehicle from BMW, and I think as a company, you know what, they're being cautious. Hey, let's do the EV thing, but in a way that we're not just like suddenly all EV. Hey, it would be great to see them just do that completely, all electric vehicle. But either way, it's still good to see that they're doing this. And coexisting, as you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. This is I see BMW in a sense they're consolidating many of their operations. So I see this as they're focusing to make Germany be a bit more of a center of excellence for EV manufacturing, while they push their existing combustion operations to other places to consolidate them elsewhere. So they're trying to sort of consolidate and improve. I see this as ways of improving efficiencies, but I also see this, BMW is a German company, so they're obviously saying, hey, this is our home, and this is what we're focusing on, and they're sending that message.
Yeah, and as Ian mentioned, it's kind of the writing is on the wall is starting to be seen. Germany, as Erica said, BMW is headquartered in Germany. Of course, your main engineering force is going to be in Germany. Your designing force Your future development R&D is typically all around your home base. So it makes sense that they're saying, you know what? We're seeing that electrification is still coming, and it's coming strong, and we are going to specialize in that in Germany. They can see some of that writing on the wall in places like Norway, which is very close to them. That they can see that these different states, Norway, Sweden, and others, are now the uptake on electric vehicles is by far overtaking ICE production. So they can see that this is happening. It's happening in their backyard, and eventually it's going to be in Germany that they'll be seeing this. So it's good to see that they're reacting to it and getting ready for the coming wave.
Mm-hmm. The other quick thing too is, like, the bottom statement is that they announced the plan back in 2020. So that's a few years back, like 3 years ago, when you look at that for them. And then, of course, they've invested 400 million euros to do this. So, they're still keeping some of the petrol car plants open, UK and Austria. And again, it's like, rather than just going all in, especially financially, I think they're being smart about this with their transition. As much as I would love to see them just go full electric and do that, but at the same time, I think companies nowadays have to be relatively smart. And I don't want to say like, hey, you're putting both, one foot into this area and another foot into this area, and instead of just completely jumping in. I can see with these companies, and probably for their executives, and for that matter, even shareholders, there's all those implications as well, where I could see shareholders are like, well, okay, you're doing this, that's great. We still have two other companies doing the other. Okay, they're probably make them feel a little more comfortable. And they prove in Germany that they can make this work. And then maybe next year it'll be Austria that they're going to convert to all EV, and they have then the proof to show this for their shareholders, etc. and higher ups with the executives. Yeah, I think they're being smart about that. So, all right. Now, this one, more Canadians are buying EVs, but is there enough infrastructure to support the industry? Now, Mark, I'll let you take this over. There is something in the article that bothered me, and we'll discuss it in a sec, but I'll let you take this over for now.
There were some things that bothered me in this article.
Yeah, I'm glad I got a controversial article, so you guys could tear it apart. I just, we all know it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to EVs. We all know that there's been a transition that is happening. There are bumps in the road as we move along. What this article is trying to say is that these bumps exist, and some of them are the old adage of charging infrastructure, that there's not enough of it, there's not enough reliability to it, or there are questions in Canadians' minds about whether or not I buy an EV because I may not be able to charge it. And some of that stuff is fictitious. We know that for a fact. As owning EVs, we know that 99% of your charging is done at home in your driveway or garage overnight, and that the vast majority of us are not going beyond the range of our vehicles in any given day. So the only time you're looking for that quick charge on the road, or maybe a long business trip, or maybe a family holiday, those are things that we know from experience. But what this article is just kind of talking about is are we looking at the other implementations that are coming with this EV wave as well, such as mechanics? Do we have enough people that are trained to fix these vehicles beyond just the dealerships? What about the third-party mechanics that are out there? Are they getting ready to be able to service electric vehicles going forward? And again, that's got two sides to it as well, because we also know that EVs have less mechanical issues over time compared to ICE vehicles. There's less moving parts, therefore there are less things to break down, therefore there are less service visits that are going to happen. You're still going to get regular stuff. You're going to have shocks and tires and things of that nature, but a lot of this other stuff goes away, like you know, the changing of the oil, the spark plug changes, the timing belts, all these other things that are associated with an ICE engine. A lot of those things disappear. So again, we may not need as many third-party mechanics as well. So that article doesn't talk about that. It just talks about the switch and is everyone ready for the switch. So yeah, it's just kind of throwing up some flags, and I don't know if it's doing it in a disingenuous way, if this is something that is trying to put a stop to it, or is it just informing the public there are a few things that you have to think differently in an EV. Mm-hmm. And with that, what do you guys have an issue with this article about?
Well, I got a couple bones to pick. We'll see if Ian agrees with me on some of them or not here. But basically, looking at this, the one I have is the expert that they picked here. And they're talking to about cold weather reliability and batteries and stuff like that. And he comes down at the end, he makes a comment, says, I think we're reaching the limits of chemistry with a battery cell today. And, you know, just looking at the battery cells that are in, you know, many labs around the world today and testing today, there's a lot of very promising technologies that are coming down the pipeline for have the potential to drastically improve battery chemistries today. So I really don't know where he's getting that information from or where that's at, but that's certainly a bone I have to pick with that. But you know, just in the article in general, you know, this ties back to a story that we did a couple episodes ago, where in Ontario there was a free program to help mechanics upgrade their skills specifically for the EV industry and stuff like that. And if you look at even combustion vehicles over time, they have become much more sophisticated than they used to be as well too. There's now a lot more hybrids on the market. Many of these have high voltage systems today as well. And so many mechanics today at most dealerships have been trained to handle that. And vehicles like the, you know, Toyota Prius has been on the market now for, you know, 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, they have high voltage systems in these battery packs, and many mechanics have been trained to deal with those. Yes, the battery packs are getting heavier. Yes, they might need some more lifts and stuff like that, but, you know, that's evolution. That's, you know, the industry has always evolved, and vehicles have always changed over the years. You know, we're not driving Model Ts anymore. So yeah, the industry and so mechanics and everything will continue to evolve with that. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So it's pretty much close and bang on to the same beefs that I have when they said requires technicians to have extra safety equipment and different tools. Well, wait a minute. How long have we been putting computers now into all vehicles that now all need the you know, the port readers and the different codes and understand what those codes do? And like, if you really want to get to the argument about different tools and extra safety equipment, my dad's 1966 Mustang could probably be worked on by a 7-year-old compared to today's Mustang. Right? You need completely different set of tools. It's a completely different car. The space to get at this stuff is nowhere close to what my dad's 66 Mustang was. So come on, we've, you know, really evolved. And Mark, to your point too, is like we have way less in terms of repair to do things. In fact, it should be almost simpler to repair an electric vehicle to a point. I mean, the computer aspect always, yeah, time you get into something like that, it can be difficult. But the other part that really bothers me, and this is where when I see people defend gas vehicles, and especially when I hear like, oh, I hear they lose 50% of the range in the cold. And I always look at them and it's like, so you're okay with the 85% of range you lost with your gas vehicle? And they kind of look at me funny. And I'm like, because what most people aren't getting is that they burn fuel at 15 to 20% efficiency. And the physics will never allow them to go much more than 40%, which is ultra expensive to be able to do that. But I always turn it around and say, so in the middle of July, when your car is at 15% efficient and you're putting out all this extra heat that you will never use, you know, it's a complete reversal of the way to look at things. And of course, with the cold weather aspect, it's always like, well, A, you can precondition the car. B, gas vehicles are losing their efficiency as well. Like you put them into a good windstorm with icy roads and terrain and everything, they're going to lose efficiency as well. So you can't argue these points with the EV stuff. It's this kind of like, we've been told this stuff way too often, and it's not to say that EVs don't lose some battery range in the cold. They definitely do. But let's put things on, you know, a level plane here. On that.
Yeah, and definitely the cold weather thing is some FUD that we hear all the time. Like and the other thing again to mention with the mileage these cars are getting is that, okay, so you're let's say you lose a maximum of a third of the range of your vehicle in the deepest, darkest time of the winter. Well, that equates to about still 300 kilometers of range in that car if you charge it up overnight in your garage. How many people are going beyond 300 kilometers through their daily routine? I can tell you that 95% of Canadians aren't doing that. So it's a question of traveling 50 kilometers is typically what most Canadians travel. So, you know, yes, okay, there are isolated cases of traveling salesmen or people that run different types of routes, but the vast majority of Canadians can live with this model. It makes sense, and there are benefits for them to do it. So, you know, we're not going to convert everybody overnight, but we can see that over the time that EVs have been present, is they're slowly checking off the boxes for more and more people. And some of this is FUD that is silly, but it's good for us to talk about it, because I know when you're speaking to non-EV owners, some of these same things just keep coming up in the conversations because they show up in the media, as this article is here, and that's what they get hit with when they look at their local paper or they hear an article on the radio or something along those lines. And it's good for us to know that these are still the common FUD issues that are out there.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mark. And you know, this article does bring up is the perception. You know, there still is a strong, because this article even mentions that there's a perception out there that these are the things. And that's the key point there, is it's a perception, that perception based on FUD, based on bad information. And I think as advocates, it's important that, you know, we keep doing our best to counter that and, you know, share our experiences and show that, you know, hey, these are not really true, you know, these are perceived concerns, but they're not really concerns. So for most people.
And here's one last quick thing that just hit me in the head about the 35% of battery range lost. Okay, what EV are we talking about? A 2016 to 2018 EV with resistive heating, or a 2023 EV with a heat pump? Because that alone is also a huge difference in the range loss between the two vehicles. So again, technology has evolved, and it's, you know, changed a lot more with this. So, you know, it's, yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, it gets really to be frustrating. That's for sure.
That's what we're here to do, Ian, is to be frustrating. That's our job.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody send this author this podcast, you know.
Exactly.
Just this section, you know. We'll have him on the next show.
We'll do a snippet or a clip of this section.
Yeah. All right. And from efficient EVs to muscle car EVs.
Yeah, well, we all got to have some fun, right? So.
This is.
So basically, you know, Stellantis reached a new agreement with the Unifor for the auto workers in Canada, and inside that union agreement was a nice little tidbit of information that Windsor Assembly Plant will be getting an additional EV. We already knew that Windsor Assembly, they're building a battery assembly plant there already. And we knew that they're going to be producing the STLA large Stellantis EV platform, which everybody knew, you know, Windsor is the home of the minivan, and the next electric minivan was going to be built in Windsor. But they got another little tidbit information where the Dodge Charger Daytona SRT is also going to be produced in Windsor Assembly as well. So it's good to see that Stellantis is investing in Canada and continues to grow EV production here in Ontario as well too. So just making Ontario that much more of a powerhouse going forward.
Yeah, I would say that once this gets into production with the electric minivan, the next generation, I think we'll try to get some sort of a tour set up for WREVA members. It would be very interesting to be able to see down in Windsor the production of these two types of vehicles.
Mm-hmm. I always loved the Pacifica minivan. And that was actually a vehicle I kind of considered at one point, just because you got the extra space in it. It's you know, a great vehicle if you have a family to go camping with and everything. But this is a company's product that I think works so well for families, where, you know, you've got the electrified version of, you know, I'm not sure what the range is now on the Pacifica minivan, if it's in the 80 kilometer to 100 kilometer range.
I think it's under that. I think it's about 60.
Yeah. But I mean, again, that's going to work for the majority of families, you know, for errands and getting things done. And then, hey, when they're doing a family trip or whatever, it's more of a hybrid at that point. Yeah, I always thought it was kind of a neat vehicle. And then the muscle car, the STLA, like, wow, I think, you know, this, I think should be enticing to the muscle car guys who, you know, they, you know, kind of look at electric cars sometimes, and I hear this, it's like, they don't like the way they look. I don't like that. I like more of this kind of like, you know, older kind of styling of look. And I think with what they've got with this is a good transition of from the gas to electric motor. And then I think once these, you know, muscle car guys get into these vehicles and actually feel that instant torque and the head back and everything else, they're going to love it. Yeah, you're not going to have the sound of the motor. I'm sure there'll be a modification they can do on it if they really want to. But in general, you know, I'm not sure if either of you have seen the guy who converted the 1970 Dodge, and he went to muscle car tracks, and he was all these muscle car guys with his car 1970. I'm saying Dodge, not a Dodge, but it's it was something with the electrified version of it, and I can see on the racetracks this being for them probably a lot of fun for something like this.
Yeah, this is another example of the EV industry checking off boxes. This becomes another aspect of another box to be checked, that we've got, you know, some people that love the performance of EVs, but they want it to look like old muscle cars. And why not? The more the better. The more of these type of conversions and looks, it's just going to draw more people into the EV camp. The performance is there for the muscle car guy already. Now they've got the look that they like, and that's just going to result in more sales and more people looking at EVs over ICE muscle cars.
Yeah, and this, just so you know, there too, Ian, this Daytona concept, they actually had a little noise device in there designed to try to make some more sort of growly noises in it. So it's kind of an interesting vehicle. And I can say too, just from my experience, you know, going back to the Pacifica, you know, I got to tour that facility just before the pandemic and see the Pacifica hybrid in production. And I actually worked in Windsor Assembly, you know, 25 years ago. I did some work in that assembly plant, and the changes that they made in 25 years in that factory was just absolutely amazing. So,
yeah, no, I think they got a good product line, and I think the minivan, I wish they actually would do more to advertise the minivan to families, especially, you know, the soccer moms and that, so to speak, you know, make it cool for them that they've got this type of thing, and you know, get out there how much money they're actually going to save from, you know, the emissions and everything else that way. I think they got a hit on them that way. All right. Well, to this story, which kind of I guess, you could almost relate it back to the other story about the guy with the cold weather and batteries. But this is something that this is an article that I think needs to be done in many respects by every auto manufacturer. It'd be nice to have a chart and to show everything, and then almost like you can put in the variables for everything. Okay, the battery percentage is this, but the temperature is that, and this is what your potential range could be. Oh yeah, there's also the aerodynamics of the vehicle, and what terrain, where are you planning to go to, and it could actually analyze the terrain. Like, I mean, that would be very cool. It would take a lot of work to put something like that together, but this everything that is affecting your range calculation, and Tesla's kind of released all this sort of stuff, I think is something that consumers need to see this, to give them an idea about everything. But then the other end of it as well is like, well, throw in the gas version of this, because all those things are going to affect the gas version with temperature, with the incline of things as well, the wind speed and direction and all that. So even like, I like the fact that they have vehicle specific energy consumption when you put on a bike rack, and how that affects things as well. So
that's interesting you said that, Ian, that I've noticed that at the early adoption of phase of EVs, I got involved in about 2014 with my first EV, and I started to notice that the car would tell me these things. It would let me know how efficiently I am going along with the fuel that I have in the car, how many kilometers I have left on the battery that I have left. And it would do countdowns. It would show me that going uphill I was burning more electrons than I would burn going downhills. All these little subtle things would tell me about my driving habits. But I would notice that in the gasoline cars, it wouldn't show any of that. No. And I have a feeling they didn't want to show any of that because, of course, that just weighs on your mind about how much fuel am I burning and why am I burning this much fuel in these different circumstances. But with an EV, it's a plus. With the gasoline versions, it's a negative. And I have a feeling that's why they weren't showing that type of information to the driver at any given point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and calculating range and range calculation, it's an incredibly complicated thing, because you basically, your range is based on historical data. This is the data that was in the past, but then what you're doing going forward is going to be different. So in a sense, you need a time machine to accurately predict range calculation. Now you can look at things like historical patterns and historical trends and driver trends and try to pull together all that data to come up with a reasonable range estimate. And some have done a pretty good job with that too. And of course, that range estimate, of course, changes as you drive as well too. Some vehicles are pretty good at adjusting that, and some swing wildly. There's the stories of the old Nissan Leafs where you're driving down the road and 1 minute it says you have 200 kilometers of range, the next minute it says you have 100. These wild swings based off of, we drove up a hill, now we've got half the range. Now
it would be, and for the early drivers, it would be panic. What's going on?
Yeah. So there's always that weigh scale of how fast do you adjust that range, and how much history do you need to do to properly calculate that, and all those factors. So it's a tricky balance, and it's a tricky thing to get right.
And let's keep in mind with your example here, Ian, with Tesla, they've had a few kicks at the can here. This is not their first run at this. This is probably their 8th or 10th run at modifying their system based on the data they've been collecting from their millions of drivers at this point. So this is, you're going to have those issues like the early Nissan Leafs. They certainly got better. Nissan got better over time as well. So this is everybody. The first EVs always a little bit rocky for the manufacturer, not quite knowing what to show and what not to show. But over time, as example here with Tesla, they've really dialed it in, and we can look forward to early EVs starting to dial in as Tesla has already done.
Yeah, for sure. On Wednesday, I went down Highway 6 south towards Hamilton, and it's got that lovely big hill. And I always waiting for the EVs for somebody to have something like that can tell you're going downhill or knows that area and goes like, all right, we got 5 to 10 kilometers more range being added of, and then a little thing in the brackets. Are you planning to come back? Are you planning to go uphill now?
Yeah.
Sorry about your loss, but yeah. But no, I think these are things that are very good. You know what? At the same time, you got to be careful because we can overcomplicate this aspect for the consumer, for the driver, and who just wants to drive and not think about these things. And quite honestly, it's easy to do that. I mean, we've got our ranges now are 400 to 500 kilometers, so it's not really as much of an issue in that respect. But for those of us who do like the information and everything, I think we really do enjoy it. Exact same route, but 2 different drivers, and that's totally going to put a wrench in the system of how those numbers come out.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good. So that's our last slide, but I believe Eric's got a little story from us about a new EV that's coming onto the market.
Yeah, so I was out today at Vatican Chevrolet in Guelph, and I got to changing over my winter tires, that unfortunate time of the year. And but they had a demo unit of a Blazer EV on the lot, and they were a little backed up for tire changes and stuff at Vatican. So they threw me the keys to the Blazer EV and said, "Here, take it for a nice long spin." So I had it out for about 45 minutes, almost an hour there, and got to crawl all over it and drive it. And I thought it was a pretty impressive vehicle. Handled very well. I also earlier got to drive the Lyric as well too, the Cadillac Lyric, which is a very similar vehicle, similar architecture as the Blazer EV. The Lyric was much softer vehicle, much slower turning. Like the steering was much slower, and the vehicle is definitely tuned to be very soft. A Blazer was definitely a little bit more on the sporty side, but still soaked up the bumps very well. The infotainment system is amazing in the vehicle, really nice. And performance-wise, it doesn't. It's not a super high performance EV, but still much faster than most combustion cars out there. So it was a good ride, and I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that they let me ride the car unfettered, basically, as well too.
And what trim package was the one that you were able to test drive?
It was an RS. Yeah.
An RS. Okay,
yeah.
So they do have a higher performance model and even a lower performance model, depending on what you're after, right?
Yes, correct. This was an RS EU all-wheel drive version, and then there's the Blazer also has a rear-wheel drive version. There will be an SS, a Super Sport version, which would be their high-performance version. And then there will be front-wheel drive versions as well too, coming up that are a little bit lower performance.
Very good. Very good.
Great.
Well, thank you for that insight. And again, we've got EVs that are being introduced all the time throughout Canada. We've got again record numbers of new EVs that are hitting the market. We just recently heard about a new electric van, and I've blanked on the manufacturer. There is a new one that was it's an all electric van. Maybe it was just in Europe that they were introducing.
Volvo, I think you're thinking of there.
Okay, Volvo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and of course the ID Buzz is coming. The all electric VW ID Buzz, which I think is going to do gangbusters here in North America when it is actually released for sale. So we've got all sorts of new EVs that are coming, and keep your eyes out. They should be coming to dealerships close to you soon.
Yeah, the ID Buzz I got to see in Vancouver, and you know what? If I could own multiple vehicles, that definitely would be one of the vehicles I would have. Just it's fun looking. It's well done. It's just a cool looking vehicle, and if you got family and everything else that you want to do some trips with, definitely again a fun looking vehicle, and I think it's very very comfortable as well.
Yeah. It's
what I can tell.
Sort of retro futuristic, I would call the ID Buzz.
Yeah. So that's very cool.
Very good. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. Let's start with Ian to see if he's got any shout outs for the crowd this evening as we record this.
I got a shout out to getting 2 electric bills, one today, one yesterday. I am now I've gotten 3 electric bills in Mexico since putting up the solar, and again 4 cents. So
Wow.
Shout out to the sun. And then today, since putting in the air source heat pump, I've been curious as to what my electric bill would be, and of course we've been running it. It's been cooler at night. We've been going into some of the negative low, like -1. I wouldn't say double digits by any means as of yet, but I would say charging. Let's say a car and a half, because I still have the Model 3, but, charging the Model Y, and then Angie comes over and charges her car as well, but then with the air source heat pump, and actually even the studio, which is its own separate building, and it has still a electric heaters that are oil filled, but total bill it was a little over $200.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'll deal with that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, fueling her whole life for $200 is not too bad.
Yeah, exactly. And running a dishwasher now too.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Keep us abreast on that through the winter, Ian. We'll be all interested to see how that heat source air pump works for you. So we'll be definitely asking.
I might be, saying, okay, well, I'm on my laptop. There's just the battery only. I can't afford the electricity to charge the laptop anymore. So this podcast is, we only have X amount of time to do this.
Or Ian ends up showing up only in audio form going forward.
Yeah,
save on that camera electricity. Yeah.
Yeah.
With that, Eric, any shout outs from you this evening?
I was just going to add on to Ian's comment there. So I've been running my heat pump's been going strong for 6 years. So it's still ticking good. And my solar net metered system, I ran in a similar idea, charging a couple vehicles and running the heat and all that stuff as well too. And my net metered system, my hydro bill was a whopping $40 last month. So,
nice.
And most of that is just service charges from Hydro One. So, but yeah, so still going good, still going strong, 6 years in. So
excellent. Nice. Excellent. All right. Well, with that, we thank everyone for watching. If you haven't already, give us that thumbs up, press that subscribe button, help us out. And we will get together next month and find out what's happening in electrifying news at that point. So everyone, have yourself a good evening, morning, or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks very much.